let's talk about different seasons. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today I'm going to be doing my rant review on Stephen King's collection, Different Seasons. This is by far my favorite collection that I have read, and it's, as a whole collection, I'll give you guys the star rating right now, it's 5. All 4 stories are absolutely phenomenal in this collection here. You have Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, Apt Pupil, The Body, and The Breathing Method. 4 absolutely phenomenal stories in my opinion. Breathing Method is a little bit kind of like an underdog in my opinion too. Don't forget to check the links out down below. There is Patreon. Please help support the channel. There is Danielle's channel. Go and subscribe to her. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into the first story. Alright, so the first story that we have is Hope Springs Eternal, which there's a play on words with the different seasons with this, but spring, hope. Shawshank Redemption is about this, we're kind of getting like a diary kind of format here from this guy named Red, who is in Shawshank. He's been in Shawshank for many years, and he befriends this gentleman named Andy Dufresne, and honestly, the story, like, the movie is phenomenal, and it like takes this short story, it's like 100-something pages, and makes it this giant masterpiece of a film. I would say the film is, as a comparison, the film is almost perfect in my eyes. I absolutely loved it, and I would definitely say, personally, I think it's a little bit better than the story, mainly because a lot of the characters kind of get a deeper meaning in the movie than they do in the book. For instance, the guy who has the bird, I can't think of the bird, Jake, I think the bird's name is Jake or something like that. The old man who has the bird is only like briefly mentioned, but for the first part of the movie, he's like a really big focal point for it. I honestly just think the movie's a little bit better. Also, the ending for one of the characters in this, the warden, I definitely would say is better in the movie than in the book, but I'm rambling on here. So, in this, we're following Red, who befriends Andy Dufresne. Like I said, Andy Dufresne is a banker who is accused of murdering his wife and lover. He was a pro golfer, or some hot, like a pro golfer, I'm pretty sure is what it was. And he ends up in Shawshank. All this stuff happens in Shawshank. You kind of get the whole gist of how bad it is at that place, especially when Warden Norton ends up becoming the guy in charge. Just kind of seems like the whole place takes a darker turn. Again, what I'm going to do is probably not try and spoil the books when I go through them the first time, but at the very end I'll kind of give some rants for them. But ultimately, the story's 5 stars. I absolutely loved Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption. This guy is just, you know, plays off like he's fascinated with rocks. He wants to get like a tiny little pickaxe. There's an actual name for it. I can't think of what it is. And lo and behold, he uses it in a different way than what you think. I absolutely love this story. It was great, and I definitely would recommend it, 1000%. Honestly, most of these stories in here, I'm going to end up kind of speechless just because of how good they are. But Shawshank Redemption and The Body are just the two of the top short stories or novellas I've read by Stephen King. They're just phenomenal. So yeah, Rita Hayworth, Shawshank Redemption, just a pure masterpiece. And again, like I said, the film is just as good, if not even a little bit better. Now you have Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. So book 2 in this is one that I originally had given, I think, 4 stars and thought it was not as good as the rest of them. This go around, I thought Apt Pupil was phenomenal. I'm giving it 5 stars. This, if you guys will pick up on this as I go along, but the whole collection is 5 stars. Apt Pupil, we're following this kid named Todd, and then Mr. Dussander. So Mr. Dussander is somebody who was a Nazi back in, well, when they were Nazis. And Todd is a very, very messed up individual. This is a very messed up story, and a lot of imagery happens in this. Infamously, he pretty much forces Mr. Dussander to pretty much do what he tells him to do. Buys this Nazi outfit and forces him to wear it and march around, and it gets a little dramatic. Talks about the gas chambers with him. He talks about all this, And Todd's grades start flunking, and he starts doing really bad. Well, not flunking, but he's getting like lower grades, and he's like blaming Mr. Doosander for it. And it's like completely wrong. And it's really messed up. It's so messed up with what happens with this dude. Pretty much what ends up happening is, like I said, Todd's grades start kind of going down the drain, and he's blaming, you know, this guy for it because, you know, Todd's just like obsessed with him, and it's crazy. And they do some crazy things, and they like I'm not going to talk about that part because I think it will be spoilers, but I will mention it towards the end. But yeah, no, at Pupil, I mean, it's Summer of Corruption is what this one is called, and it's like blackmail, man. It's crazy. And I was all for it this time around. So there you have Apt Pupil as the second story in Different Seasons. Alright, so the third story in Different Seasons is probably my favorite. It's up there in terms of short stories or like novellas from him. And that is The Body, Fall from Innocence. This is such a good story. The movie is just as good. Apt Pupil also has a movie too, and it's got the guy who plays Magneto, Ian McKellen or something like that. Anyway, the Body is a masterpiece of writing. It's actually sad. It differs from the movie with its ending, just like most of them tend to. Basically, we're following these four boys: Gordy, Chris, Vern, and Teddy. I am not going to remember their last names, so don't hound me on that one. Gordy is the main guy we're kind of following here, the main kid we're following. He's best friends with Chris, and Teddy and Vern, they're really good friends, but like, when I talk about the spoiler part, you'll see what I mean. But all four of them are really good friends. This is a story, this is like a coming-of-age story that sets the tone for coming-of-age stories, in my opinion. This is basically what happens is this guy, Henry, dies, and it's like this big thing in the town where all like some of the kids know, but nobody can find where he is. And so Vern's older brother ends up finding him on accident, and so Vern overhears him talking to a friend about where the body is. So Vern goes to the guys and says, "Guys, let's go find a body." And they drop everything they're doing. They're like, "All right, cool, let's do it." And it's this whole journey with them going to find this body. You know, there's the infamous train track scene, there's the leech scene, there's lard ass, there's all these great things. Gordy's trying to be a writer. The only thing that I didn't fully enjoy of the story is the little interludes of his story at the beginning. The lard ass story I think fits well, but the very first like interlude of Gordy's like writing, I didn't really get it. I guess we're trying to show like, you know, this is me as a younger writer, I'm better now, but like I didn't think it was necessary. I thought it was kind of a waste of space, if you would. But it's a 5-star. I'd give it 10 out of 5 if I could. It's so good, it's crazy. And I love every bit of it. It's such a good story. I myself am trying to start writing again and writing a book. And after I read The Body, it kind of drove me to kind of start writing it again. So I've picked it up and I'm starting to write again. And that's literally because of The Body. And it's such a coming of age story. It's like, it touches you. Like when you are, you know, when you're older and like life is passing you by and like you read The Body, you're just like, you know, I'm like, one of the infamous lines from the movie is, "I never had friends again like that later on in my life, like when I was 12. Something along those lines. I'm probably botching the hell out of it, but whatever. Such like a touching line, and it's so good. It hits you like when you get older. You know, I've got my son now, and that's, you know, gets you. But yeah, no, The Body, a perfect story. I absolutely loved it. So they have The Body from Different Seasons. It's story number 3. Okay, so story number 4. This one, originally I thought was better than Apt Pupil, but after reading this a second time, Apt Pupil is better. I would say it goes The Body, Shawshank, Apt Pupil, and The Breathing Method. The Breathing Method, I think, is still a 5-star story. It's this weird story. I honestly, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know I don't remember any character names in The Breathing Method. I really don't. And I'm just going to point blank say it. It's not, out of the 4, it's the least memorable, but only in terms of like characters. Like all the stories are like memorable, but just like the character wise, it's just kind of like, it's more or less the story what I picked up on and what I care about versus like who's part of it. So there's this random guy who gets invited to this weird club, and they like tell stories. And this one time, basically we're following the story this one guy tells about, being a doctor and this woman who was pregnant and was telling her like, oh, there's this breathing method where you breathe like, a certain way. Something happens while, childbirth is ensuing, and like, she's in labor, and it's a really weird story. Breathing Method is now, in my opinion, the weakest out of the 4 stories, but it's still a really good story. It's interesting, just characters really aren't. So, I mean, is it really a 5-star? That's my opinion, and I'm still giving it 5, so whatever. But yeah, no, that's The Breathing Method, the 4th and final story in different seasons. Alright guys, so those are the 4 stories that you get in different seasons, and now I'm going to kind of talk about spoilers with the 4 stories, if I may. I'm going to do more like a rapid fire thing here. So the Shawshank Redemption, the best part about that is the escape scene and when they find out that he has escaped. So earlier I mentioned Andy Dufresne had like a little mini pickaxe to like carve out rocks and stuff like that. But that's not what he did. And the funny thing is, in the movie, it's very clear when he does it. But in the book, like, Red is like, I would imagine he was carving his name in the wall and then this happened. In the movie, it's like, yeah, that's exactly how it fucking happened. But it's so cool, just like the reaction from like the warden, and like Red is just laughing his ass off, and it's so great. I absolutely loved it. And the ending in this book, Norton just kind of fades away. He like resigns after a couple months after Andy's escape, and he's defeated and stuff like that. In the movie, he fucking shoots himself. And that's because Andy like releases all the information about the Shawshank prison and like how it's corrupt and like this and that. A bunch of the guards go to prison in the movie, which is hilarious, and the warden just blows his brains out. It is, I think it's a better ending just because the warden gets what he deserves. The other difference is in this book, Tommy, who is a character I don't know if I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I did. He talks about Andy's wife's actual murderer being some other guy, or at least a theory that it's some other guy. And in the movie, they shoot Tommy. In the book, they send him to a better prison. So, again, I like the fact of Tommy surviving in the book versus him dying, whereas the warden, I prefer dying, like in the movie, versus living, such as in the book. Shawshank is still such a good story. Apt Pupil. Where do I go with this? So, this is a demented book in terms of the kid, Todd, and Mr. Doosander basically start like killing homeless people. And Mr. Doosander goes along the lines of even like getting a cat and putting it in his oven. Like the whole gassing thing. Like, it's messed up. And I'm not gonna lie, it could be a trigger warning. If, it's a big trigger warning, I would say. So, yeah, it's a big one. But yeah, so that is the biggest part with Apt Pupil is like, and then eventually Mr. Doosander takes his own life, and Todd actually shoots his teacher, which in the movie is played by David Schwimmer. Like, when they're trying to confront him, he shoots the teacher, then he runs away, and they catch him. And that's like the end of the book. So, The Body, Stand By Me. There's like, the ending of the movie shows Vern and Teddy kind of walking away, and there's an over voice saying, we kind of went our separate ways. Teddy is doing time in Shawshank, and, Vern is like a forklift operating manager or something like that. Where in the book, all 3 of the friends of Gordy die. And earlier in the book, there's there's a reference to, I can't find what it was, what the guy says, but they pretty much, they flip a coin to see who goes to go and get like supplies and stuff like that. And one of the guys does they all get like tails or something like that. And the guy calls it a, what does he call it? I forgot what he called it, but whatever. Like a coochie? I don't think that's right. I can't remember what it's called. If you guys know what it is, let me know in the comments down below. I'm drawing a blank. It's something itchy. I can't think of it. But what happens is it means like bad luck. There's like 2 of them. If you get all heads, it's good luck. If you get all tails, it's bad luck. And what happens is they all get tails. But then when they reflip, Vern, Chris, and Teddy still get tails, but Gordy gets heads. So he goes to get the supplies, but the other 3 friends end up dying. And that's like totally like a callback to what happens with the book. So what ends up happening, Vern ends up dying in a house fire. Teddy ends up dying in a car accident. And Chris, this is the saddest one, because Chris and Gordy end up like going through like some more life together. Vern and Teddy just kind of like fade away and become faces in the crowd, like faces at school. And Chris and Gordy like become good friends, or well, they already are good friends, but they like become even better friends going through like, you know, college and stuff like that. And Chris enters a restaurant and 2 guys ahead of him start a fight. One of them pulls a knife. Chris, being the good person he is, tries to break up the fight and he gets stabbed in the throat and he dies. It's like so depressing because like like I mentioned earlier, like this is like literally like a fall from innocence. They find the body, and in doing so, like their innocence is like gone. That's kind of like what I think the whole like point of it is. It's like you now are like, you're leaving childhood, and growing up is a hard thing, and you lose your friends, and unfortunately for Gordy, he lost them in more ways than one. So, but yeah, there you have the body, and then the breathing method. The woman, I'm going to keep this one short just because the body was such a long one. The woman basically gets her head chopped off while driving to the hospital. The taxi like has like an accident. Head gets chopped off. She's still breathing, and then the baby gets born, and like everything is fine. And then the woman eventually just like, you know, dies. But the creepy part with that is like she like talks, but the noise is coming from like the top of her like neck in the car. Like it's like eerie to like hear that. But anyway, so that's why I thought like, okay, well maybe like the thing in the room is maybe like the kid, or maybe like the body of the woman, or maybe I missed something completely. I don't know. So there you have different seasons. Again, it's a 5-star collection. By far the best collection I think he has, in my opinion. Everything in here was a 5-star. Everything in here was phenomenal. Really not much else I could say. Maverick's starting to get a little fussy out there, so I think I'm going to end this video. If you've read any of these 4 stories, let me know your thoughts down below. Spoiler free, preferably, to not ruin anything for anybody else. Obviously, if you stayed through the whole video, you got the spoilers anyway. But, yeah. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the links down below. Again, help me out, or help the channel out. Become a patron. Also, subscribe to Danielle's channel. All that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.